You know?
So you're banging your head against a wall here a little bit.
It's not easy to get these regulations changed.
So talking of government, President Obama is obviously trying to do what he can. If you had 5 minutes with President Obama, what would you advise him for, one, stimulating the economy and entrepreneurship and creating jobs? Is there one thing that, if he could successfully get through, that would be a big stimulus, do you think?
Well, I think actually, I think the reality of being president is that you're actually like the captain of a very huge ship and have a small rudder. Because obviously, if there was a button that a president could push that said economic prosperity, you'd be like, they're hitting that button real fast.
Full steam ahead, yeah.
You could measure the speed of light by how fast they press that button, because that's called like the re-election button. So I'm not sure how much the president can really do, but I think you know, I'm generally a fan of like minimal government interference in the economy. Like the government should be kind of like the referee, but not the player. And there shouldn't be too many referees.
Right.
But there is an exception, which is when there's an unpriced externality, such as the CO2 capacity of the oceans and atmosphere. So when you have an unpriced externality, then the normal market mechanisms do not work, and then it's government's role to intervene in a way that's sensible. And the best way to intervene is to assign a proper price to whatever the common good is that's being consumed. So
you're saying there should be a tax on gas?
There should be a tax on carbon. You know, if the bad thing is carbon accumulation in the atmosphere, then there needs to be a tax on that, and then we can and then you can get rid of all subsidies and everything else. And it seems like logical that you should tax things that are most likely to be bad, rather than, you know, like that's why we tax cigarettes and alcohol, because those are probably bad for you. Certainly cigarettes are. So you want to err on the side of taxing things that are probably bad, and not tax things that are good. And so I think, given that there is a need to gather tax for the, you know, to pay for the federal government, we should shift the tax burden to bad things, and then adjust that tax of that bad thing according to whatever's going to result in the behavior that we think is beneficial for the future. I mean, I think currently you know, what we're doing right now, which is mining and burning trillions of tons of hydrocarbons that used to be buried very deep underground, and now we're sticking them in the atmosphere and running this crazy chemical experiment on the atmosphere. And then you've got the oil and gas companies, which have ungodly amounts of money. And you can't expect them to just roll over and die. Like, they don't do that. So actually what they much prefer to do is spend you know, enormous amounts of money lobbying and running bogus ad campaigns and that kind of thing to preserve their situation. You know, it's a lot like tobacco companies in the old days. I mean, they used to run these ads with doctors, like a guy with a doctor, you know, pretending he's a doctor, you know, essentially implying that smoking is good for you,
right.
And like having pregnant mothers on ads smoking.
Do you have a message for the climate change skeptics and the big oil people?
Well, as far as climate change skeptic, I mean, like you know, I believe in the scientific method, and one should have a healthy skepticism of things in general, and you know, if you approach things from a scientific standpoint, you always look at things probabilistically, not definitively, and so I think a lot of times, if somebody's a skeptic in the science community, what they're really saying is that they're not sure that it's 100% certain that this is the case. But that's not the point. The point is to look at it from the other side. So what do you think the percentage chance is of this being catastrophic for some meaningful percentage of the Earth's population? Is it greater than 1%? Is it even 1%? If it is even 1%, why are we running this experiment?
Right,
because
you called it a Russian roulette. We're playing Russian roulette with the atmosphere.
We're playing Russian roulette, and as each year goes by, we're loading more rounds in the chamber. It's not wise. So that's, and what makes it super insane is that we're going to run out of oil anyway. Like, it's not like there's some infinite oil supply. We're going to run out of it. So we know we have to get to a sustainable means of transportation no matter what. So why even run the experiment?
Right.
It's the world's dumbest experiment.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.